high water usage here now.
No, none whatsoever. Huh?
It'd be doing like inside the whale drive. We've talked a little bit about street lighting. That's our next subject. And this was just a summary of some things I wanted to hit on. Street lighting is an area that's pretty tough because there's so many. We first started off with the idea that we were going to take Okmulgee and put a city map on the wall and get these little pins and put pins every place there was a street light, and we started counting them and decided that we didn't want to do that. Just to get an idea, there's thousands of street lights. I don't know how many you get. The Okmulgee, Ada, and Enid all had contracts that it made it easy for us to look, and we didn't really go out and count street lights, but we took the contract for the street light bill, and they spelled out how many of each type, so we were able to use that contract as an analysis tool. But what I'm saying is you need to know what you have. It's a tough job to look at a contract that the power company lays on your desk, and you agree to pay that every year, but you don't really know. I'm speculating. You don't know if you have 5,000 or 5,010 streetlights. It's just a tough job. As best you can, you need to know what you have and to compare your usage versus your need versus your bills. You need to know what the potential savings are due to the energy saving sources. You need to consider ownership of poles and lights. And you need to consider removal of 1 out of 4 fixtures in an overlighted area. As Mike referred to yesterday, we found a lot of street corners with a street light on each corner. And very highly lit, and you could take 1 away. I'll probably take 2 away in most cases. In that situation, it wouldn't have ever, in our opinion, hurt anything. Now, I know there's politics behind that too, but when you see the cost of these street lights, you might be able to overcome some of the political problems. If you have the old mercury lighting, which is give you the blue tones on everything, you need to make plans to replace them through the PSO system. And I'll show you this in a moment. In their rate schedule, they say that if you want them changed immediately, they require that you pay an additional $50. Well, otherwise, they'll change them for you on a 10-year program, according to their notes there. But it would pay you to give them the $50 and change it today, because it saves $52 in the first year. So you'd make $2. So if you had 5,000 mercuries, I don't know how y'all do, but we saw quite a few mercuries in the systems we looked at. It's like Mike said, Okmulgee had a plan. They had already had an agreement to change all these to the high efficiency lighting, and everywhere we looked there was mercury. And well, the power company just hadn't done it yet. Well, I really wonder why, because if you look at the rate schedules and the energy cost. Well, let me back up just a little bit. The facts are, on a 400 watt high pressure sodium, it produces 50,000 lumens. A 1,000 watt mercury produces 56,000. So that's the comparison you would take out a 1,000 watt and put in a 400 watt high pressure sodium. In efficiency, lumens per watt, you get 125 lumens per watt from high pressure sodium and 56 from mercury. Repeating probably some things Charlie talked about earlier. The energy cost, based on 12 hours a day, the high pressure sodium costs $122 and the mercury $276. Now, if you look at the rate bills, and these numbers came from that, annual cost, what they would charge you for the high pressure sodium is $294. What they charge you for mercury is $346 per year. So you would save $52 a year to change from mercury to high pressure sodium. The power company would save, and this is retail right now, they would save $154 a year if they would change it. Now, of course, their power is, what, 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour, I don't know, 2 cents, so instead of 6. So it's about a wash if you look at what their cost is, but you can see that if you own the light fixture and the pole, you could save over what you're paying now, $154 in energy. Now, you would go from $346 renting a mercury pole and light to $122 owning a high-pressure sodium. So that's a significant cost, and that's why we're saying you need to consider owning your own light poles and lights. There are other costs that need to be looked at of replacement cost and the difficulties of dealing with that, but even if you just make the change and insist that your mercuries be immediately changed to high-pressure sodium, you have better than a 1-year payback. And I imagine if you look at your contracts, it'll spell out how many mercuries you have and how many high-pressure sodiums you have, so you could easily make that calculation.
The first time we contacted them, the utility companies, well, they weren't really sure if they had a list because, you know, these are added over here. Well, I don't know if we keep track. I mean, we know, but I said, well, you have to have an audit trail, corporation commission. And I said, no, you're appreciating those things out, and you've got an audit trail, you've got a list, we want the list. Lo and behold, every one of them had a computerized list with the date it's put in, the locations put in, the type of fixture it is. But they weren't really sure when we started. But the other thing that's interesting is when they replace these on their upgrades, sometimes you'd be amazed how many of them will grab whatever they have. You've got 1,000 watt mercury vapor, they'll put 1,000 watt metal halide in there. Not always do they downsize like they should. So it just depends. And it costs you and your contract agreement. And also, you know, in every city, we were amazed at how many lights were on the daytime. Primarily mercury vapors. I never found one high-pressure sodium on the daytime except on a building. The street lighting and security lighting, I always found mercury vapor lights on during the day in every city. And why? I have no idea. Some were on photo cells and had failure. Is what the most common, but in every city they had them on. And it cost you money.
I wanted to show you, this is the street lighting rate MSL, where it says that for those customers who desire mass conversion of existing mercury vapor to high-pressure sodium, the company will convert over a 10-year period. For those customers who desire mass conversion from existing mercury vapor to high-pressure sodium, in less than 10 years, a charge of $50 per fixture will be charged to recover the undepreciated value of the replaced mercury vapor fixture. That's a pretty good deterrent for a large number of fixtures. If you just look at the rate schedules, you know, and you have some way to fund it, it might be a good thing to try and get all your mercuries changed over.
You know, one thing I found with PSO, who's city I've talked to, is if you get on that 10-year plan, PSO manager is really involved in your city, things that's going on. He'll speed that 10-year program up. It'll be for 10 years, but you're letting him guide you, and you're playing the ball game with him, and they'll help.
That's right.
And that would be even better than that you could get them changed quickly without paying $50. So local politics rule in that case, I guess. I want to show you one other one that gives you a comparison of lumens and rates, which I developed those numbers that we used just a while ago from this table. This happens to be an OG&E table, but it shows the comparison there where the 400 watt doesn't really show you the watts, but the this one right here shows 60,000, but this is a 1,000 watt mercury vapor, and this one is the 400 watt high pressure sodium. The lighting efficiency is just so much better, and the little asterisk on the next page says that. Let me show that to you. See the little asterisks here on the mercury vapors and filaments, the single asterisks. It says is these lighting fixtures are not available for new installations, so they've got a commitment to not put any more of them in, which is interesting. Are there any questions on anything we've covered so far? That's pretty well all I had to discuss on the three topics here.
Well, there's one other subject before lunch. I'm going to take some time to cover what we covered after lunch, but we've got a little bit of time.
And that's the additional charge to, if you would have, these rates here are on an existing pole that they don't own. And I guess if you want them to come out and put a pole in, that's when they have the extra $3.
I noticed on the leaves there, those metal poles are extremely high. They have these metal poles, I don't know why. Have to go around and see where they're located, but they're real high.
That's right.
Sometimes it gets you a pretty good hassle to get them to come and take out 3 or 4 lights too.
Right, well, if you're on a franchise agreement, it's a lot more hassle than if you're on a contractor agreement.
They moved some buildings out and it left 5 lights down, stretched out across this vacant lot. And so I called in OG&E to come and take them out. And it took me almost a year to get those lights. Of course, they're still there, they just went up there and cut the water.
Cut them loose.
What happened was lots of times a serviceman can take care of some things, but where they have to bring in a crew, 2 or 3 vehicles and 5 or 6 people, it takes longer than that to program it in.
Right. Well, one of the biggest things mentioned earlier is the politics of security aspect, and once it's already up, trying to get rid of it. One thing that you can share between communities of similar sizes, for example, Okmulgee, I believe, had 1,500 streetlights. And so you can look at, if you've got a similar city, and it depends on your corporate coverage, what you're dealing with, how many square miles that you're dealing with too. You have to, be realistic and make a pretty good close comparison. But for example, if you've got 1,500 and you're about the size of Okmulgee, and Ada had alarmingly substantially more lights than Okmulgee for the same size city. And so you can see if you're way out of line. And for example, like Ed and I were saying that, they have the resolution. I know they can do it, they just don't want, the city manager doesn't take a stand because he's been here for so many years, and I don't blame it. That's a decision you make. We present the facts, but you could pull those lights out and no one even know. You could drop one, because when you have 4 on a street corner or 3 on a street corner at every block by block by block on every, and then you've got 2 between the blocks, and you've got 4 per block down the street, and then when you hit the corners of the intersection, you have 3. And sometimes 4, 1 on every corner, and on down. You can remove lights and no one will know it. But like they said, it's a politics, and that's something you have to deal with, and it's an educational process. Security, the merchants, theft, if there's vandalism issues. Timing has a lot to do with it. If you've had a theft, or if you had someone riding vandalism, which we've had with juveniles, and we all dealt with juvenile problems of what do you do with them, because in our situation, they were just back out, and the parents don't take care of them, will not make them mine, and the policeman can't do anything with them. They're back the next day, back that night, vandalizing. So if you have a vandalism issue, you sure can, on the same agenda or the very following week or the week before, talk about taking out security lights. I don't care how much you're going to save, it's a dead horse real quick. So you have to be very sensitive to all those issues, and that's the kind of stuff that we can address in the community, and we don't even want to, because it's not our city. I mean, I care, but I don't really care that much. You care about your community, you're there, you live there, so it is a potential, but it's a delicate situation, and where you have to remove them and how you do them. But the area I wanted to talk on a little bit before lunch was on, and it's one of the most gross things that I've seen, that it's operation maintenance, what to do, when to do, and it's on page 116. As I said earlier, it's not picking on the people, it's a situation of budget crunch, but in every community we went into, it was very apparent, it was all consistent. I don't care how many people, good night. The city of Enid has one of the largest maintenance facilities I've seen for a community. I mean, Oklahoma City and Tulsa will be by far exceeded, but for a rural community such as that, I mean, they had 5 buildings. There's the service center, it's a complex, built in '82. I mean, I could spend the rest of the day picking on the service center itself. It's tilt-up slab construction with 0 insulation. I mean, just 6-inch slabs up on the wall with nothing, and lots of doors. It's configuration where they have, it's a pretty relative, it's an economical design in terms of first cost, like everything usually is. But then they have offices, and their large shop bays are similar to this. And then they have their administrative and their other offices in the front. The problem that you get into, that's in the wrong area. The problem that we could see is there's a door here and a door here, and overhead doors. This door stands open, this door's open. A lot of times there's another door, say here, and that door would stand open. This is all conditioned space. This is open to the elements and the weather. And they're consistently flooding the rest of the building that they're paying electricity for to condition the space, environmental heating and cooling. Their doors are open. All it takes is a closer. First time cost, closers aren't that expensive, but they add up, so they didn't put any closers on any of the doors. They don't even meet current code requirements, you know, in terms of egress and stuff, the way they were doing that, but the time which it was built, I'm sure it did. But in terms of maintenance issues, when we went around, we found everything from filters that obviously at the airport at Enid had never been changed, and I don't know when. I mean, it had, I don't even know how you could even get return air through it. Everything from that standpoint, we got up on and exhaust units on the roof, pulled the hoods off, looked at the motors. When the belts have cracks all the way around, they're ready to break, and the bearings are making noise. You can hear them, you know, they're 26 feet in the air, and you can hear the bearing noises. It's obviously no one's getting up there doing things. Rooftop units, the one thing I can say in fairness, if you're going to put rooftop units on buildings and they're here to stay, they're always going to be here because they're cheap. Anything cheap is always around. Provide a way for the man to get up and do maintenance. All the rooftop units, in every application we looked at, there was no provisions for maintenance. You had to go get a fork truck, you had to go get an extension ladder. Charlie and I was up there on the maintenance center, and in Enid, the winds were gusting, and whenever, I don't care how young you are or how good you feel about it, you get an extension ladder, get them 26 feet, and that thing starts skidding against the side of the building because the wind's scooting you along, you pucker up pretty tight. And if you make it hard on your maintenance people to do work, they're not going to do it. There's too many fires to put out. I mean, first thing they got to do is we had to, well, wait a minute, we got a call man. What do you mean a call man? They didn't have a ladder there. But he's got the ladder, he's having to go out here and do this. So we had to wait 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and get the ladder. Well, no, that's the wrong truck. Okay, then they bring the other truck up. Then we have to go get the ladder. Then we got to carry the ladder. I mean, the maintenance men go through it too. I mean, the guy with the ladders, I mean, it's not like you got 40 ladders laying around. You know, he's got it out here doing an emergency repair. He's taking care of a fire. And it's a prioritized thing by the city manager or the mayor or a political issue. And yet you've got all these other things that are lined up that are not being done, and they take care of what they have to take care of. But in every situation, the rooftops, there was no access. There was no ladders to even climb. Well, everyone thinks, well, okay, I'll put a ladder and a hatch in. Sounds good, but now you try and carry your tools toolbox, you know, tie a rope and hang it off your, in trying, in trying 26 feet or 27 feet, 16 feet. You know, it makes it, one corporation I worked for, one thing they did do, and I was amazed they listened to him, but he was the third employee in the history of the company, is he put not ladders, but on stairs, they took another flight of stairs right to the roof, just like they used to do in the old penthouses. It cost about $5,000-$6,000 versus probably $1,500-$1,800. The hatch is probably $500-$700, and the ladder's a few $100, and then installed, you know, versus $5,000-$7,000, you know. But everyone was men, and they did their maintenance. They had a way to get there. They had a way to carry their tools. They had accessibility.
Those manuals. Manuals.
And manuals.
You know, so many times they'll build a new building and they either won't give you enough manuals, or somebody wants to be overprotective and they'll keep them all together, and then that person leaves and somewhere it's in the storeroom back there still in the brown envelope, you know, and the maintenance man should have had a copy of it. Usually you have pretty competent maintenance, right? They can do it. If you give the information to them, they can take care of it.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that came out of this, that when we strongly recommend when we go around looking at these with you, but you're going to be gathering information, make it a building inventory. A building inventory report. You know the age of your motors. You just build a grid column. Here's the age. Here's a column on condition, poor, fair, good, bad. Here's the model number. Here's what it is, the size of it. And you've got a building inventory assessment on all your equipment while you go through this process. And it's very beneficial because you can start knowing, I mean, you're going to have to replace them. I mean, you can wait till they fail. Example, City of Bixby City Hall, we had 2 rooftops fail and its compressors seize up. They're put in 1981. Oh, we got rooftops? No one had changed a filter in 5, 6, 7 years. Well, what was it, 89? No one had changed filters. Hard to believe. No one had serviced the equipment. When they went out, gosh, remember, that was one of the first things that happened when I came on board. I said, well, when are they doing the maintenance on them? Gosh, we weren't really sure that we even had them up there. There's no hatch, there's no ladder, there's no access, and you know, the 2-story building part of it. And so, if you're going to do these things to people, be fair to your maintenance people. You can't expect them to do anything that you wouldn't do.
You got to budget it too. You got to
Yeah.
budget some money. They can't take care of it if you have budget.
That's exactly right. And that's what happened. That's one of the first place everyone cuts back. I mean, well, it's like a car. I mean, we do the same things to ourselves in our cars and our houses. You have a tendency to overspend because you really want that Cadillac. But the question is, do you have the money and the income to maintain that Cadillac in the way to look that you want it to look 30,000, 60,000, 90,000 miles? Or are you going to trade every 2 years? You know, you've got to look at your own economic conditions and can you really afford the Cadillac? Well, that's what happens with buildings the same way, is that's one of the first places they cut because no one sees it. Well, you know, it's doing fine. Well, and in reality, light fixtures should never burn out. You need to change fluorescent lights, especially when they're out there at 70, 80% of their bulb life, because the quality of light is down so far in the quality of what you're receiving from the bulb, it will pay you to replace them. No one changes them until they burn out. It's the same with motors and maintenance and on every aspect of your building. You need to maintain it. You need to do things that are preventive, and no one's doing preventive maintenance. And it's either a budget cut or it's a condition where it's almost virtually impossible to get to access to them. I mean, we had some of these that we'd try and find out where the units were at. No one knew where the units were at. On a building I looked at for the City of Bixby on a school with Ed on a project, we were hunting. We've had T-stats. You count T-stats, so every T-stat there's a unit. First thing to do. If you got a T-stat, unless it's fake.
That's an exception.
You gotta watch people. Unless they're fake, then, you know, if they're real, then you've got a unit somewhere. Well, when you're missing units, and I end up having to climb an attic, and that's absurd. They do it all the time. They stick them in the attics. Well, for a maintenance man now, I mean, it's worse than trying to get a ladder. Now, he's got to crawl, and this one was in a crawl space. It was about this tall. I'll tell you what, if I'd been a maintenance man, I'd have put a stick of dynamite and I'd solve that problem. I mean, you had to climb up, you had to walk on roof joists that were wood, 2x6 wood, and in the dark, carrying a flashlight, and you're balancing with your, you know, I didn't have any equipment with me, hitting your head every now and then, a nail sticking through with the wood decking the side of the head, you know, and I only had to go in there once. Had to climb over a duct. That was nice. It's like this chair. Here's the roof. there's a unit and I'm climbing like this over this wooden joist. I don't want to fall through the sheetrock, you know, because the city manager, you know, all those issues, you know, and you're climbing over. I'm going, gee, many Christmas, this man's supposed to get in here on a monthly basis and do work on this thing? Forget it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I mean, it's amazing what they do to people, and you can't expect your people to maintain that.
Your expenses go up. Sure.
That's right.
It gets back to this $30 an hour, it might be $50 an hour, if they gotta go in that attic.
That's right. Well,
75 degrees.
Summertime, if 160-degree attic temperatures, if it's not properly ventilated, and I mean, you come out there, and if you've ever been up, everyone's been in their house, and you've been caught up, and you come down, and you feel like you just kind of go, whew. I mean, you just, man.
That is the weekend's project.
That's right, and you can literally count the pounds by the minutes that you're up there, that you're losing in water. And it just, you just don't want to do that, but don't allow architects and engineers to do that to you. Ed, especially engineers, no. Ed, on this one particular project he was doing, it was for a ICP program, for you can get funding for energy conservation for schools and institutions, hospitals, schools and institutions. There's a grant program that, it's what, a matching grant? Is it?
Yeah, up to 90-10, really, but usually on normal situations, 50-50.
50-50, up to how many $100,000 or?
Well, last year they had $1.7 million they gave out.
And that's through the Department of Commerce. Now, your hospitals, schools, and institutions already qualify that. They don't have for municipalities. That's what I'd like to see happen with this program. And you can get really innovative and do some things, but he did a program there, went through a lot of calculations, and the engineer that they were hiring at the time wanted to stick these units in the attic. I don't know what they ended up with, but they had 3 different programs. They had the El Cheapo light fixture, $20 off the shelf 4-amp fixture with the cheapest, worst ballast they've got, with your cheap lenses that yellow over a period of 3 to 5, 7 years. You know, with the El Cheapo roof and where attic mounted furnaces and things, gas-fired furnaces, you know, package. I mean, that's absurd to do that to yourself. Sounds real good because, boy, I can put that in for so many dollars a square foot. Mm-hmm. Are you going to maintain it? Mm-hmm. Is it going to last for long? Mm-hmm. Is it efficient? Mm-hmm. And then you catch yourself with high utility bills, with low-life equipment, and yet the building's there. This building, this particular building is a major renovation. It was built in 1920. I went to school there, in elementary school. And I was talking about last time about life cycling of buildings. It's been there since 1920, built by the WPA. Still there in 1992. Just went through renovation this year. So, I mean, the absurdities we do to ourselves, are we going to try and they're going to put this cheap, down and dirty, bottom line system in that's going to be a piece of junk in 3 to 5 years. I mean, that makes sense. And we do this all the time. And you just go, why? Why do we do this? I know it's budget, I know it's close, but we jump out there and we do some really absurd things, and then first place we cut maintenance. You know, we would cut maintenance crews, or we cut the budget of maintenance, and you have to keep it together with baling wire.
You know, sometimes on budget, it's really a political thing. Somebody likes metal buildings on the council.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, they'll beat metal buildings to death. They just want them. But I've always been of the opinion, you know, our forefathers were pretty darn smart. The buildings they built, the reason they're still standing today is because they built buildings to last.
That's right.
Now, they may not be energy efficient, but those buildings are still there. But you put up a metal building, it's going to be gone in a few years. I can tell you. It's not going to be there the 50, 60, 75 years that the buildings that...
Well, a lot of it's our cultural. So we're losing a lot of our heritage, and it's our throwaway society. Everything we buy, everything is geared to be replaced. It even reflects the attitude on our senior citizens. You won't catch up in China. You won't catch it in other cultures, but in our culture, well, that spillover is in the industry. It's in every product: cars, clothing, furniture. Buy new, change it out, throw it out, get rid of it. You know, let's carry over to buildings. So we need to really think about what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing, and really get value out of the dollars we spend, because everyone, the old cliche, you want the maximum for your dollar, and you do, but also you want the maximum to be able to maintain it. And if you look on 16, it has seasonal as well as weekly as well as daily. And there's actually daily requirements, you know, and it has to do with your checking your security lights if they're on the daytime. And I mean, that goes back to what Pete said, attitude. you don't want, the last thing you do is say, okay, I'm gonna identify you to go out there and you're gonna check, your job is to check see if lights are on. He drives around all over the city, well, didn't see any day. I mean, no, that's just an attitude of, you have a meeting, you say, hey guys, if you see any lights out there, we need to report them. And as they drive anywhere in town, it's just observe that they're in their trucks, they're having to drive from here to here to here to here to here all over the town doing work. If someone sees a light on, they'll make a report of it. You know, that's back to attitude. It's a back to caring, you know, and they're in, you know, you got maintenance people in virtually every building doing something that given day. On your way out, does it take that much time to look at the T-stat setting? Does it make that much time to, on your way? I mean, you go through a door. I don't know how someone could say, well, you mean that needs to be replaced? The weather stripping needs to be replaced? God, I didn't know that. Well, it's built in '73. Yeah, but you know, I mean, you go through the door every day of your life. It's like saying, well, I didn't know the toilet was stopped up. At home, try that on your wife. You use it every day, it doesn't work. Well, it's the same with maintenance. Now, there's some aspects that aren't that simple. I mean, in terms of servicing equipment, you're not in the equipment room doing something all the time. But when it comes to doors, weather stripping, light bulbs, T-stats, you don't need to make special conditions or special schedules for them to do something. It's just a matter of attitude and training that when you're in that building, just you're going down the hallway, just step in and look and say, okay, yeah, okay. You know, on a T-stat, check and see where this temperature setting's at. You know, there's more to it than that in terms of service, but, you know, that's just spot check daily things. Your seasonal things deal with, you know, and checking the lights. When you, like Pete says, you drive by at nighttime, or someone else I think said it too, and the place is lit up like a Christmas tree, City Hall, and everybody's gone. You know, I mean, those type of things almost happen daily. But on your seasonal things or weekly things, you need to check more in terms of the actual condition and quality of the equipment. Your caulking, your weather strippings, those type of issues. Spring and fall is a good time to check your caulking and check your weather strippings and stuff like that. I can't stress that hard enough, because if you don't do your maintenance, you don't take care of it. It's the same with your body. You know, God created you to have X amount of days of life. Your teeth were designed, believe it or not, teeth were designed to run the entire life of a person.
If you take care of it.
If you take care of it. You know, the heart was designed, the lungs, the body, every part of your body was actually designed. You know, I've had knee surgery. I've abused my knees in certain ways. Everybody's abused certain parts of their body. I mean, we've all, you know, eat too much sugar, you know, refinement, things like that. But your body was designed to run the life. And say so's equipment, not like a body, forget that, but it's designed to have a life expectancy and a life cycle. And rooftops have a programmed life. They're not like central plant equipment. Central plant equipment, 25-year life, if it's maintained and serviced. Everything, so you can't expect to have a rooftop and go 15 years, 20 years. They're out there, and they're doing it. You know, it's amazing how many of them will. But they have a program life if you maintain them. And so you need to go in with the attitude, okay, here's the life of it, here's what we need to do to it. Don't spend $100,000 trying to keep a rooftop in operation, you know. Babying it and painting it and spraying it and keeping it clean, but you know, just do the logical things that you need to do. Don't overspend. But I can't stress it enough on maintenance issues, because it was very apparent that they weren't being done. And
I have found though that when we began budgeting for building maintenance, we did it 2 years ago. Each department head, well, we kind of look ahead to see what actually we need, but they'll go from $2,000 to $3,000 a year, which is good. I have found that when we have a budget, it'll get done. If we don't have a budget, it's not going to get it. That's basically what it is. And I think they're putting in new overhead doors today at one corner. Because we budgeted for last June.
well, it takes money to maintain them. It honestly does. It's not cheap.
But I think all the councilmen that I've talked to, I mean, they're real sensitive to building maintenance. I mean, don't overspend, but yeah, do it. Do your thing on it.
Well, in Bixby's situation, in fairness, we don't really have a maintenance crew. The building maintenance, we don't have anyone in building maintenance. Don't have anyone in charge of building maintenance. You know, the first thing to do is set up the infrastructure, someone who's responsible and accountable for it, and then give him the means to make it. And
That's a Plan B project.
That's right.
For each department.
And and give them the intelligence, you know, give them the responsibility, but give them the means to do it, give them the money to do it, and give them an opportunity to do it, and they'll do it. Everyone takes pride in their work. I don't care what you do. If they don't, you get rid of them. But there's always good employees that take pride in their work and they care. But I don't care how good the man is and how much he cares. You beat him down every day and he hits his head against a brick wall because he can't even get access to it. He don't have the proper equipment. You won't buy him an amp meter. He couldn't even check it if he wanted to. What's he gonna do? Stick his finger cycle? Yeah, that's what works. You know. So no matter how good the man is, you have to give him an access to do his job. And I find that they'll do it. I mean, I've never found people who don't. But that's all I was gonna say on maintenance. We can end a little early today, and I better check on our lunch with Anita and see. We may not be able to get to her early. We might want to go on to one other subject, but Charlie, could you ahead and check and see if our lunch is scheduled? I'll dance around this one other one, which is a single sheet page, is something for thought. It's the next page, 117. And it's just when you're adding on your building, there's a checklist here of things to look at. And this is a real good one in terms of just your own thought process, but it also brings up a lot, you know, to question the architects and engineers or whoever's doing the job, if you're doing it internally, in-house, whatever, make sure there's not too many lights. Make sure there's enough switches. I was over when we were running these off, and I was helping them out on the reproduction on these copies for the binders. We left, we put them together, and they had already left. They get off at 5 o'clock, and we were there till about 5:30. Couldn't find a light switch. I mean, it's a large production room. It's about 5 times the size of this room. We've got a lot of equipment, offset print for the university. I found one light switch. Other than inside the office, I found one light switch in the open area. We could not find out how to turn off the lights in this space. So it goes back to people, basically by nature, have a tendency to be lazy. And if they'll switch on the way out, it's easy to do this, the door. But if I'm headed home every day and my office is here and it's like the pump man, the pump switch, and I've got to go up in that room, climb these stairs, go around, and go in there and open the door and turn off the lights and come back down in the dark, come down the stairs, go out the door, it's not going to happen. I'm going to leave the lights on. Sorry, I don't care. I'm not going to trip and fall. And every day of my life, go through that routine. It's your problem. You pay the bill. I only work for you. I only work for you. And that's human nature. I mean, you only get out of people what you put in. And that's the same way with, you know, enough switches. Task light, I mean, is there enough light? You want enough light for them to do your job, but you don't want so much light that's... City of Enid and all the offices there, they had, it's an office that was about 14 by 15, 12 to 16, in that range. Had 6 2x4 fixtures, 4 lamp, and 3 2x2 fixtures, the U lamp. So it had 9 light fixtures, and those were in every office around the perimeter. In the conference room, we had 3 8x8 8-lamp fixtures above the table. Table 16 feet long. I mean, we had plenty of light. Plenty of light. And the thing that's amazing, those 2x2 around the perimeter, someone thought they'd get real creative. Those 2x2, they had light all the way around the building, windows. Those were on a sensor, and they'd go on and off, supposedly based on foot candles. I said, well, have you ever seen those go off? No, really haven't. They're on some type of timer thing. Well, what type of timer thing? Well, no one's ever adjusted the timer. The lights are always, they just turn them on, turn them off, well, they stay on all the time. In the hallways, incandescent lights, someone knew someone that sold recessed cans because they were everywhere. I mean, they were everywhere, whether you needed them or not. We had recessed cans that, in fact, what they did is they went around and just took bulbs out, turned them off, unwired switches. I mean, you could turn off half the lights in the city and not even know that in the city hall that they were ever there. You didn't even miss them. So when you're looking at adding on, go through all these issues to yourself and make sure that, and look at your cut sheets. I mean, ask the engineer, are these high efficiency? Because a lot of times they won't specify energy efficient ballast or energy efficient lamps. They're just over the shelf, cheap, off the counter, and you get what you pay for. And just for a little bit more on first-time cost, you can pick up the quality of your light fixtures substantially. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to do it then than it is to do it after the fact. Like every one of us are looking after the fact now. But if you'd done it when it was put in, it'd been a lot cheaper, dollars per dollars. Well, this whole list you can go through. I mean, it doesn't cost that much more. I mean, you got manual, we asked for any programmable T-stats. Well, majority of new house construction, and I was talking about El Cheapo, if it's cheap, it's in a house, well, it's true. In Tulsa, the majority of houses, $100,000 or more, have programmable T-stats. I mean, you can buy them for 40 bucks. For commercial, I think they're around 100 for a good quality, the ones you'd really want to have a lot of options and things. But no one raised their hands. Every one of you have the old manuals. A carrier's $9. Less than that, certain prices, I think you can get it through Granger's and places like that for $7. Well, that's the intelligent device that tells how to operate. I mean, that's like buying a $30,000 car and putting one of the worst carburetors ever invented on it. And I want economy. You know, I put a $10 carburetor left off a 55 Chevrolet on a $30,000 Cadillac, and I'm bitching because I'm not getting fuel economy. Well, that's the device that controls when it kicks on and kicks off, and how sensitive is it, how accurate is it. You know, it's just the old mercury switch. Boom, boom. I find it to be 3 to 5, 7 degrees off. As a general rule. I mean, not even finding a bad one, because, I mean, every so many of them, there is a bad one that gets out there. So, you know, you can do things that, with just a little bit more dollars, that can add a lot of quality to your facility. What I need to say?
Yeah, why don't, whenever you're ready, why don't we break? We might want to use the restroom, and then get ready, and they'll be ready for us.
Well, unless there's any questions on anything, I'm ready to go to lunch. That's right. I think we pretty well covered everything, unless somebody has some questions about some aspect that we've talked about, or because we've covered a lot of broad subjects, and we didn't really go into the detail that we really need to on all the subjects because of time. Because we've been on the other side, and that's why we didn't want to stay till 5 o'clock, because we know on the second day, you're already thinking right now of the work that you've got backlogged for the last 2 days. You're thinking, I wish you'd shut up. I got a long trip to get home. And, hey, I've sat over there. I know. I said, golly, that's what he is. I know. And so you've got all these issues to get home to, and you think, boy, if we push this, I can get in, I can get this accomplished, I can get home early this evening, you know, I can get in and set my feet up, pipe and slippers time. And so we're pushing to get there. Unless there's any questions on any aspect so far, we'll just go right into the audit forms. That next to the last tab. No, I can't do that. Before we do that, I will just go to the appendix. I have to hit one thing just to drive you nuts a little bit here. In the appendix, because we didn't really look at them, be sure and read, if you would, like everything else, but there's that one article in there on under lighting, Utah Energy News. That one, if you'll read it, is like everything on the lighting. All the subjects are very good, but that one has some extremely enlightening information at the very back. I hear all the paper going.
I like enlightening information on lighting.
That's right. It's very good. There's other states. I don't know why Oklahoma has to be one of the slowest people. I'm sorry, but I think we're better than Kansas. I mean, I'm going to pick on Kansas Jayhawks. They're good people. You don't find better people. But for some reason, everyone calls Oklahoma Hicks. Well, I'm from Oklahoma, born and bred here, and I think Kansas are Hicks. I mean, not Oklahoma. Kansas is ahead of us. Utah's ahead of us. Wyoming's ahead of us. Washington State's ahead of us. Oregon's ahead of us. Texas is ahead of us in these programs. They've got, and we're trying to promote and get it pushed on a state level in Oklahoma. This was from Utah, and it's a similar program to ours where they have, I don't know if it's in Utah, it might be Utah or Washington State. They have a state pool of money. Instead of the Department of Commerce getting a little piece of the pie, and we share out the little pie, what they do is they have a state level fund resource equivalent of like $5 to $10 million, and everyone leverages their money, and it's a loan program on a statewide basis that really can do a lot of major projects. Instead of having $500,000, you got $5 million, you know, you get, your municipalities, their eyes light up, you know, when you've got a pool to work from and it's like a 3% loan payment. So hopefully that'll be forthcoming, possibly. It depends on how aggressive the administration is. But I just wanted to point that out to you as an article to read, and it's very good, and they have a team of professionals. We've also got a newsletter at the back called Energy Wise. Tells you some of the things that's already been done, and something some of your cities are listed in there as well. On CNG, a few articles, and there's no sense going through them. Under alternative energy sources, we put this in there for bedtime reading. If any of you have insomnia or what do you call it, you can't go to sleep at night, you don't need to take Somnix tonight and rest. Just turn to alternative energy sources and just kind of skim through on compressed natural gas. It's an overview. Talks about the pros, cons, advantages, disadvantages. It's pretty light reading, but it can put you to sleep. And then there's another one in there, just a little short thing on battery-operated cars. General Motors, it's a few more years away, but GM's already made a commitment, Ford has, and some other manufacturers into having electric cars. And it's amazing. There's another company that's doing research on battery starter motors off jets with accelerations up to 80 miles an hour. And so there's some new technologies coming up that are real promising. In Oklahoma, there's a big push by the governor's office, and quite justified so. We have some of the largest natural gas reserves anywhere. So read those, and we can give you information and more detail later and look at the fleets. But what we found on most fleet, no one knows. You got the age of the vehicle and the average mileage and the condition, you know that you've got half your fleets that need replacing tomorrow because you run them to the ground. And they make it from the police department to the public works department to whoever gets stuck with a wore out thing, and you get all you can out of it. But in order for us to look at the economics, we have to know the dollar cycles and an audit trail of mileage and repairs and service, and most people don't keep all those. It's a major nightmare. So we'll work with you on those and do the best we can, but we probably won't do a full-blown study. We found out that most cities don't have the information to be able to perform it, to justify it. You just get into a conscious situation with the city looking at your past few bills and age of your vehicles and what you're paying in gas, and it pays for itself in fleet vehicles, and the payback's there. And it's easily justifiable in numbers, ignoring what you're doing in each city, just pure economics. So, Enid, we can put you in contact with Enid, what they've done, what they're experiencing. That's been a year now, and whether they like it. And there's others. And if y'all are interested, we can have Oklahoma Natural Gas come in. There's a guy there that actually knows how to convert them. I mean, he's a really interesting speaker, a lot of fun, and he knows what he's talking about. And they've got a little video that shows you the pros and cons. Everyone's afraid of natural gas, like propane for years. It's highly volatile and it can explode and kill people. Well, he'll prove to you that it's safer than gasoline automobiles and stuff like that. So it really dispels a lot of fears that people have about that. I was afraid with natural gas, like propane. Well, not even the case at all. And environmentally, it's better than our cars we use, but there are some negatives to it in terms of the performance of the vehicle to some degree. And they're making modifications to lean burn and computerized situations to actually make your cars perform better. So anyway, that's in there. Enough said about all that. Take a look at it, and if you're interested, we can have speakers come in next time. On the actual building audit inventory, this is real important, and it's very basic, but give us the best information you can. For example, step 1, that's the building name, building address, and that's real important. I mean, you think, well, that's kind of dumb. Well, tell you how important it is. The address you give us will not match the address on your utility bills. It's amazing how creative the building in the same location can have 3 different addresses by the gas company, electric company, and what you call it City Hall. And what will happen if they get separated in the compiling of information? We got 12 different cities, and going through all of them, if one gets separated, then we have to decipher. We've got a utility bill, and we don't know what it goes to. And it says 701 South Seminole, and there is nothing 701 South Seminole in any city. And it creates real nightmares. We only had 3 cities to deal with, so please help us as best you can. keep all that. One important thing is item 6, if it's owned, leased, or leased out, if you lease it, we don't look at it. We're only allowed to look at municipal-owned property. So if you lease out a facility from someone else, from a private company, that's your problem. You can apply what we teach you on everything else to that, but I don't know why you'd want to put money in somebody else's building unless it can really save you on quick payback. So those are important to us. The building function, in terms of the description, if there's anything unique about it, different hours of operation, any characteristics like that, the way in which the building functions, or special requirements about the building, you can kind of set them there. And there's other places as well. Section 2, those items there are just to help us describe the primary heating system. Some of these, the way they're described, that you just go, what? You know, what are they? But hot water, steam supplied from the central plant. And as anybody, majority are familiar with central plant, some of you probably aren't. Central plant is like with a boiler, a large boiler. You've got a large compressor, and it's a chilled water system and hot water system, pipes throughout the entire building, and usually they're in a basement, or they take up a large area of the building. You know, majority are going to have rooftops and things like that.
We'll have to have an inventory of each one of these buildings.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Each one of these sheets
You gotta have for each building.
is for each building and facility. They're really very lengthy, but you can sit down. You need someone who knows the building, a building operator. So whoever operates the building is the best one qualified to fill this out if you have building operators.
Okay.
Because they know there's questions in the back, which we'll get to, about operation and maintenance and issues like that. These front sheets are real basic. Type of refrigeration system you have, domestic hot water system you have. I don't think we have to worry about fuel oil. Maybe someone has fuel oil, but you can answer those, LPG or propane. On the second page, stop me, speak out if you have any questions, like some of the descriptions we use for this, if it doesn't make sense. Like an air-cooled compressor, electric refrigeration. It's, you know, like an outside residential grade on the ground. Like item 14, second page, your unitary or rooftop furnace, your parameter hot water. You got that variable air volume or terminal reheat or heat pump, dual duct. Pretty much the systems we've talked about. Lighting systems are pretty self-explanatory there.
Mike might mention too that and if there's duplicates, if there's more than one, you know, when Martin votes.
Right. Right, correct. If the building is served by more than one type of application, please circle more than one, and then we can clarify with additional information. Heating systems, inside a building, outside a building, on the roof, centrally located, etc. If you read through it, it pretty well says as it is. Item 19, very, very important, is the gross square footage that the building has. You can give it to us by floor, you can give it to us as total, but it is important to tell us the number of stories. You know, because we want a 2-story, 12,000 square feet is a lot different than 1-story, 12,000 square feet, and its characteristics, the way it consumes energy. Last major addition or renovations, you know, anything like that you feel is important to let us know, because it does impact the way we look at the building. The year that it's put in operation, and this isn't July 4th, 1933, you know, I mean 1930s, early 1930s, 1920, 1945, 1950, mid-50s. You know, I mean, some of these are going to be guesses for you because you probably won't have the information on, but because we can get that close too. I mean, you walk out and I can tell pretty much within 3 to 5 years when the building's put in operation. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for a specific exact date. Go get the documents and dig out the archives and says completed September 15th, 1930. No. You know, we don't need that kind of accuracy for that. Location, that's important, urban, suburban, or rural, because it has to do with, like we've talked about, the heat, you know, the surroundings, the winds it's exposed to. Also, for you to know, it also has to do with roof designs. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but when you're having a roof put on, everyone, you need to know the type of setting you're in to the uplift, you know, because You lose a lot of roofs, people lose a lot of roofs and roof damage and deterioration because it's not designed properly. You get a vacuum or suction that happens on a roof, and that's the number one thing that architects get sued over is on lawsuits is leakage and damage to buildings. And just so side byproduct of this, I'll give you one
Usually the
little.
newest too.
That's right. So you got to make sure, like you have parapets that stick up on the perimeter of the building, there's your walls going down, and here's your nice little gravel or whatever you got for a roof. You get a boil-over consideration, it really sucks up on the perimeter as the air comes across. It's similar to just like taking that's why you make a sound on the jug and whoop, whoop, you know, across the vacuum, it bubbles over. Same thing's happening on the roof, and you have extreme vacuum conditions around the perimeter. So anyway, just so you know that, so somebody comes in, where it's setting has to do with in the wind speeds, exposures, how much that thing has to withstand uplift. Annual operating hours, well, let's go above functional use changes. If you've had any like major conversions, like in the city of Enid, they had the doctor's professional building that was converted to the central fire station. And those type of things we need to know because it tells us a lot about the quality of construction, some of the operating conditions, and when you design a doctor's building, the entire HVAC, the control system, everything about it, the characteristics did not operate properly for a fire station. And when we know this is what it used to be, and we go out there and look at it, and we see there's obvious problems, we ask a few people in the building you know, how's this work? Oh man, we got a problem over here, we got a problem over there. It really helps us understand why you have certain problems, and they're pretty prevalent. Annual operating hours, that's the number of days and hours, and 8 to 5 is 9 hours. You know, you go to lunch is 8 hours, but the building's there 9 hours. And if you get people there showing up at 7:30, it's whatever that building fires up, you know, and it's actually open 40 hours a week, 45 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever the case might be. Fire stations, it helps us if you can tell us. It really gets into complexity there because they're never a 24-hour operation. They're there 24 hours, but they don't function as a 24-hour operation. If you can tell us shift 1, shift 2, when do you cycle it down? I mean, when do you go to bed? I mean, there's so many hours that you're asleep and you turn off the lights and et cetera, and you're there on duty. I mean, you're not up and operating 24 hours, so it helps us understand if you can tell us more specifics about the fire station, because it really impacts the way we calculate your lighting loads and HVAC loads, you know, on an annual basis. We make assumptions if we don't have the information, and it can distort figures a little bit. Because we take the daily hours of operation time, the days of the week, and let us know how many holidays that you all provide, days off, and times the annual operating hours. And it helps us too if you want to at the bottom or anywhere, even on the side, if you want to say 3 hours a week, 3 times a month, you know, like your nightly meetings. Typically, though, for conservative purposes, we just ignored nighttime meetings. And the reason we did that is if you ignore that, it makes the numbers a little bit more conservative. You know, it makes it as though it's not as wasteful as it actually is, you know, when you're looking at the numbers and the payback. So we just discounted planning commission meetings and those, but they happen every month and they do waste energy and it adds up. So it depends on how accurate you want us to be. We'll calculate it however you provide the information and ask questions relative to that.
Did you say you normally just forget about those?
Well, we did on the first 3 cities because we never could get accurate data from them. We'd like to have it in there, but if you don't put it in there, we just ignore it and go on. And it doesn't really hurt you, per se. It makes it, the stuff's got to pay for itself faster. It makes the numbers more conservative. Anyway, the building conditions, and be critical. I can't say it hard enough because I'm going to be critical when I come down there and look at it. Okmulgee's got one, it's a fire trap and I'll be condemned, and I told them. And if I was a fire marshal, they would not have occupants in it, and it's a police station. Sad but true, and they know it. It's, again, back to economics. But when you got pigeons roosting on your second floor and you got dead pigeon skeletons and you're wading in pigeon poop, and the windows are knocked out, And the only floor is occupied, it's a basement, it's a 3-story, it's an old 19 historic classic building, beautiful building. But they've got to do something with it, or remove the police department.
Well, the health department doesn't have with them pigeons. That pigeon disease is fatal.
Well, it's, so be critical, I know, it's, be critical in your buildings and, you know, look at them as though that you own them. That's the best way to look at them. If you own it, you'll be critical of it. You know, what you don't like, do like, but be fair, you know. Don't run it down just because you can. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. Building characteristics, the building shape, square, rectangular, E-shaped, H-shaped, L-shaped, that's pretty self-explanatory. Your materials, your exterior materials, what we're looking for there is, you know, your primaries, is it masonry, construction, concrete block, is it wood frame, or is it metal building? You know, because they all have different profiles in the way they consume energy. The percentage of glass on the south face is over half the building. You can just read through it, it's yes and no. I mean, we're trying to keep them, but this really is good information for us. Primary roof structure, components, you know, the structural components of steel. Most of yours are going to be steel, maybe a few concrete. You'll have a lot that are wood, smaller ones. The energy conservation activities, if you've listed anything that's been done recently, you know, some of you are probably ahead of us. Enid was ahead of us in some areas and behind in others. Examples of, you know, what you've done, you know, the cost, and if you notice the savings, so that's what that's for, just listing those conservation measures. On the next page, item, or section 6, you know, this really helps us. For example, Enid had service center and they had 4 buildings on 1 meter. Well, it makes it real difficult for us. So if you're on a complex, you know, if you've got one, like a central plant, for example, serving 3 buildings through a basement of network, you know, we need to know, because you know, you may have 3 different meters for the different buildings, but this energy source is coming from a central plant shared or something like that. Anything like that that's weird or unique, we need to know, because we have to be able to break it down and contribute building to building to building through calculations as accurate as possible. So that's important if it's a complex and if you're sharing an energy source in more than one building. If yes, and if you don't understand or you're confused or you know you're not sure, staple on a little explanation, just right to the back of anything that you want to say about the buildings you feel is important. Staple right on and say refer question 37 or refer question 40, anything like that. You know, whatever you can do to help us with. Their annual energy consumption, what this boils down to is you have your bills and your kWh, then times that number next to it, converts into BTUs. And really, at this point, the cost, if you want to fill it out, is fine, but we really just need the BTUs. You know, and you get there from the only ones you're going to really be calculating is electricity, natural gas, and possibly propane, I've heard mentioned. I don't think you have to worry about coal or fuel oil or purchase steam. And so the only thing we're going to be doing is converting from your utility. Now all this information comes right for utility bills on the building. It'll have an annual use, kWh, or annual CCF. Probably it's going to be under MCF on your gas. Then times that number, then it'll tell you our annual BTUs. Item 38 is just nothing but the BTUs divided by the gross square footage, item number 19. And then the cost by. Ed, I'm telling them that if we get the BTUs, if they want to fill out the cost, which will be very good for them, I mean, the costs are real easy. I mean, all you got to do is fill it out in terms of, because that's right off you add up the totals of 12 months and there's your cost. But it's not as important as the BTUs are to us. The BTUs are where it's more important, but it'll be good for you to fill it out for a record. And when you go back from now and see what you were paying. And the same's true with the cost. That's how we arrive at the cost per square foot. We just take that cost and divide it by the gross square foot again. So you can see how many of the numbers work off each other number, so it's important to keep all the numbers as accurate as possible, because the more inaccurate, the more they distort each other, the more they use them. Your electrical demand is important to us. You have your highest demand measured in the month of, and Ed, you or Charlie might explain on that what we're looking for there on item 40, you know, in specific terms.
Well, But what we're gonna do is just, you know, if you do have it, and I would be surprised really if any of you know, just looking from what you have turned in, if any of you do have a demand. But that just gives us, you know, we can go back and check your rates, make sure, see what, you know, see what's happening there.
And I know so far this looks like a lot of work, and it is, but believe me, the work only starts after you get us the information. In terms of ours, on our side, that's when we really start working, and that's when your work really starts tapering off down to, other than decisions and brain power, thinking things through. The energy consumption worksheet, pretty self-explanatory, item 1 and 2, basically taping your gas and electric bill right there, so you have it in the chart where it's right next to where you've been doing the calculations. We found situations in the other cities that they were being charged and sent bills on buildings they didn't own. Ada was paying for stuff they didn't own, and they were, that's one of our bills. And I said, no, we've got bills for everything. In one of the cities, we were missing the bill. We were trying to find because the addresses are all mixed up, and they called them different things, different addresses. And in Ada's case, we had one where they were paying or they were being billed for that they didn't own. They didn't lease it out. And in fact, they said, well, we don't know why we're getting it. I said, well, if you don't know why, we don't know why. So we gave it back to them, so that subject was taken care of with the utility company. And to this day, I don't know the explanation on it. It doesn't really matter. But when we...
On that item right there, we'd like to be sure that we get the kilowatt hours and the dollars and the demand, whatever your bill is. I noticed on maybe one of the printouts
Right.
from Benita on the big bills didn't show dollars, and so we want to make sure that we have the kilowatt hours and the dollars for each month. I might also looked at it wrong, but we'd like to have it for each month so we can see how it goes each month.
And the utility companies can provide that for you. I mean, they've got that on computer. It's just a matter of asking 2 or 3 times, and then they'll end up providing it. On the next page, electrical consumption of the building systems. This is just a description of the lights. Basically, you can go through and count them. What I do is just take a piece of paper before I fill out the form, and I just see, you walk into the major section of the building, like in this room, instantly, 2 before stand out. So I just go 2 by 4, 4 lamp, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like that. Of course, there's only 8 in here. And then on the incandescents, I call them 75 watt floods, because the majority of them, unless they get large bulbs, are like 100 watt, or you can look and tell. And you'll know by your maintenance people have the bulbs they stock for them for replacements, so they can tell you if there's a question. And then just count the total numbers and write them down. I had, in City Hall, we had 45 of 2 before 4 lamp, 35 75 watt floods, 2, just that list. And then below that, you've got the gross square footage, which we've had all along. And we take the total watts, which are the total watts of each of the fixtures. Now, Charlie, it's gone. Do we want to fill out those 2 at the bottom?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just fill out the top. We'll
Right.
take care of that.
Because, it gets into, you need to understand the actual wattage. For example, like these 2 lamps versus a 4 lamp, single ballast, dual ballast. If you know, like on the age of the building, for yourself, George, you've been up in there, you can probably tell them if they're 2 ballast or 4, or single ballast fixtures. You can generally look and see, like, it's a 2 lamp fixture. You can see the stripes, know that, but it really would be beneficial, because a single ballast fixture wired differently versus the old style of 2 ballasts in them really consume difference in electricity. If we don't know any information, we assume the worst case about 192 watts.
We're running in this Sylvania catalog here. They have a list of pictures identifying the different types of
Good.
fixtures and this sort of thing. We're running copies.
Good.
We'll hand that out. Perhaps that will assist someone in identifying what type of fixture they have.
And then the hardest thing that is the hardest thing to do is item 42. Really is the hardest thing in the entire audit form, special equipment. It's the part I hate. It's the part you're gonna hate. I'm not gonna make a light of it at all. It's any special equipment, and that means coffee pot urns. When you got in the shop area, and you got those coffee urns like this, and they sit there and they cook all the time, and you need them for your maintenance crews because it keeps them alive when it's 20 degrees outside, keeps them going. Those things pull the wattage. You know, I mean, everything from that to your power, your Lincoln welders, to your computers, to your any of your computer mainframes, to your PCs. You know, we need a listing of all the equipment that you have. You know, that's special equipment.
And the main thing is to list the equipment. If you can find a KW rating on it, that's fine, put it down. But if you can't, just list the equipment and a model or something. And we have tables and stuff where we can find this, or averages. The main thing that we're interested in is the annual use.
Right.
If you could give us that information, you know, is this thing, is a coffee pot used, you know, 4 hours a day or whatever is the usage, but that is very important to us to determine that usage.
And where it becomes important is those numbers themselves by themselves are not that important because we're not going to really do anything with item 42. We're not going to come here and say, well, you don't get the computer, yours don't work, we're taking that. I mean, we're not going to impact or change anything about you there, but what that does impact is the numbers with lighting. We need to know how much is contributed to special equipment, or it's going to make lighting look a lot bigger, and it's going to distort, you know, and then the number's going to say, well, gosh, we can cut your lighting bill 2/3. But then a third of it over here all along has been special equipment. You've got 100 computers in there, you know, in the administration building, and no one told us. Well, we're going to come out and look, and we're going to grade you on how well you do. No, we're going to come out and look to see if there's any question. When we come around and see if we can help, because there's going to be questions, clarifications, and stuff like that. And then we have to estimate. If you can tell us, like we ask questions, and you can ask the same questions, I can promise you everyone in this room is as smart as I'll ever be. You know, when you go out there in a welder in a shop, man, say, how often do you use that welder? Hey, Bill, have we ever used that? Well, it tells you right there. You know, he's been there 10 years, and he turns to another guy. Have you ever? When's the last time we used it? Well, you know, it doesn't get a lot of use. You know, those kind of things. You know, and it gives an estimate how many hours. Or no, hey, we're all the time like in Enid, they have their trash trucks, and they go in there and they have a car wash they run through. And I said, good. I mean, they've got a commercial car wash. I said, and for their police and fire and everything. I said, how often do you use this thing? I mean, it's heated indoors, and the doors were open, and it was 20 degrees, 30 degrees outside, and we're heating Mother Nature. I said, well, how often do you use this thing? And it's got instantaneous heater, plus it's gigantic. I forgot, dual A.O. Smith, big hot water tank system, gas fired. And he said, oh, every day. I said, you run all the trucks through every day? Yeah, police use them every day. I mean, so, and I said, how many police cars do you have? 12? You know, they have more than that. How many fire trucks? You know, so I said, okay, well, that tells us right there the kind of usage that thing's getting. Those kind of general numbers, what we're looking for to understand. You know, computers, we're going to assume that they're being used, you know, they turn them on in the morning, use them basically all day, unless you tell us otherwise. That type of stuff. So that's the kind of information, because that section is something we can impact, and you can't either. You have to use them, but it keeps the other numbers active as possible. 43. Some of the fans, pumps, compression, power, remember on this and Charlie, if we want them to do it or not.
Now, we could probably, you know, we'll be computing, you know, the KW of our lighting, and then, as Mike pointed out, if you identify all the special equipment, then we'll take that number, and that's really the way we're lighting our HVAC loading. You know, we add up our lighting, we add up our spatial systems, that gives us our total non-HVAC load, and then taking that from our total load tells us what we're looking at in terms of HVAC.
HVAC, right.
So we could do those numbers.
So then 43, you don't need to fill it out?
No.
And 44?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they don't fill out 43, Charlie, then we'll fill out 44.
Yes, well, we can, we'll do that.
Okay. 43 and 44 with the 5.
Yeah.
45 is real easy. In fact, it's just right off your utility bill. You know, in June, you take June and calculate it times that conversion factor from 37. You know, if it's electricity, whatever that KWH is times 11,600. And that's your BTU. The same as with your CCF times 103,000 off item 30. And that gets your, of course, you're only looking at electricity there. No, you're looking at gas, I'm sorry. On item 45 is your non-electric energy consumption.
Yeah, if they get us the raw numbers, you know, we'll do these calculations.
Okay.
Because that'll help us, as we do those calculations, to familiarize ourselves with, you know, with the data
Okay.
and what you're doing.
I don't think you're
Don't
going,
have trouble getting all the data.
right. I don't think you'll have anything on the under the alternative or the non-electrical. What about item 47, 48, and 49? Then, Charlie?
I would say, you know, we'll do those things.
Okay. So basically, from item 43 on, then
What we're gonna do?
our team will.
Good, that sounds good.
Got a question?
Okay.
We're in the process of converting over computer systems, so right now we're running two computer systems at the same time until the end of the year. Will that make any difference?
Well, no, because we're going to last year's bills. By the way, we're
What
going
time period are we going to be working?
1990.
All of 1990?
All of 1990.
So January to December?
Right.
Okay.
Because we'll uncover, like, for example, Ada, and we need to know this, we found a situation where their maintenance facility in Ada was a complex of 3 buildings. This one's just a little maintenance building. And this one, well, no, this is a major maintenance building. This one, it says here, was mainly warehouse with office at this end, and then they got the street department over in Quonset Huts. This one had the least amount of usage. I mean, common sense told us. But when you went to utility bills, this one had 0. I mean, virtually 0. This one was way out of line, but yet when we were out there, this one was doing all the work. I mean, this is where all the activity's at. It made no sense. And then come to find out, you know, we're trying to figure it out and calculate. Come to find out, this was in a fire in 1989. When the bills were coming in, they took the entire operation and put it in this facility. You know, and so anything like that that you know about, please provide the information. It sure saves a lot of effort. You know, we're just, you know, it just doesn't make sense. You're calling out and you say, no, that's the address, we're going to the utility bill. No, they've got the bills wrong. This bill has to be on that building.
So I supply you with the old computer system information at that time, or what do you want the new?
Good question, Ed. They've got 2 computer systems. They're going to stay operational for a period of time till the first year because they're converting over to the new one. But do you want the information on the old computer system for the actual audit, even though they're converting to a new computer system that they'll actually be using?
I think I'd take the information that was applicable during the year 1990, whatever it was.
Okay. Anyway, that was quite an exercise of mental waste. But it was good we found out because they didn't even know it. They just paid the bills.
Question. Now, on this form here, like I have 3 departments in one building, separated through the building. Do you want one of these filled out for each one? Because they're at different times. Some of them are open like 2 days a week. And then our city office is open 5 days a week. And we have social services in the back and everything's different. How do you want to do that?
Is there 1 meter
No, there's about 5.
on the one building?
Yes.
Just the opposite.
Could I take him to do it on the departments and staple it all together as an administration building?
We've got 3 different functions or 4 different functions: human services, administration of city hall, and what else?
Social service.
Social services. in one building, and they all have these like 5 meters on the one building, they're broken by departments. Do you want one of these forms per department, or do you want one for the building?
I just want one per building, but we could add the meters together. We'd like to give us all of the meters, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are
well,
they in-
the form is gonna be different on each department, you know.
Are they
different
separate
times.
buildings?
No, it's one building, but it's by, you know,
Zoned up.
Like tenant spaces.
yeah. See, and I can't fill this out for city office and apply it to,
And they're open
social
different,
service.
they're open different hours of operation. One of them are open 2 days a
RSVP.
week. Yeah. So we may want them per each
And
space.
then just put it all together, it's, do 3 separate ones.
That would be acceptable, surely, we could
That's
mark
fine.
it together afterwards.
That's fine. Any other oddities?
We'll find some.
There are, I mean, that's just reality, it's out there.
We got two.
Do we want to get down into park facilities like concession facility buildings?
Well, what we have done on like the park, Ed and Charlie, about restroom facilities and things like that, typically what we've done is you give us a quantity of how many you have in a typical configuration, because those really aren't where you're gonna, you know, you don't go in there and address a 1 floor lamp fixture and really save money, but it's nice to have a lot of information,
We have ice machines and hot water tanks.
but things like that, like pool houses,
And
You know.
just all of our concessions have hot water tanks and ice makers. Fluorescent and incandescent lights.
are they all the same or pretty much the same? They all got the same size hot water tanks?
No,
Okay. And we'll probably have to have them on
That'd be different.
the, yeah, we'll need the information on them. Typically, if, you know, like in Enid, they had several that were either twice this size or a singular size and same configuration, and they weren't even heated. Or they'd have a 5 kW electric heater in there, and they had 5 of them spread out, you know, you can do one and say 5 cabinets.
we're not heated or air conditioned, but we have those things in there. We winterize them every year, just drain everything.
I believe if you're going to have it in the program that we identify it as a separate building, list the equipment, it would be a very low energy usage.
Yeah.
Well, on
It's
those
non-conditioned.
facilities, our meter includes the bathroom concession and storage facility, but our lights are on that same meter also. It's gonna distort that because we can't separate the two.
Yeah, the ballpark lines on the same meter?
What we would do is ask you to list ballpark lighting under the category of special equipment.
Okay.
List the hours that it's used. The best we can do is estimate it. But part of the auditing is to look at it, document what you have, and then
Yeah, the ballpark lighting could be 3 hours a night for 4 nights a week for 3 months out of the year. And that will tell us what we need in terms of that, something like that. And then the type of fixtures and quantity that they are. Metal halide, 400 watt, 250 watt metal halide. And if you know the height of the poles, we need that, you know, like 16 feet, 24 feet.
Mark, let me just say that the work of the audit, you've heard us, we've always talked about, we found this here, we found that there. Well, we found these oddities because we were actually in each one of these places and looking, you know. So that's what we really want to have happen, is that we do go to the buildings and look at all the systems and look for the things that are causing the problem. So we need to be sure that every one of them is included.
Okay, and we have a lake with camping facilities and everything on, with electricity and everything to each pad. We're not even gonna look at that, are we?
Well, you know, like your, what they call those lake places you rent, RV parks you go out and plug up to. We're not gonna really look at those. Same thing like if you have a landfill project, and you got an 8x8 roadrunner building, a gatehouse that you go up to, and there's a light bulb in it. Supervisors, he stands at the gatehouse and watches them drive through the trucks. You know, I don't think we're really interested in that, because, and City of Enid had some horse barns we never really looked at. You know, if you've got some things like that, like a horse barn that's full of manure, and there's a couple of lights hanging in it, you know, we really don't care about that.
You don't care about walking through there, do you?
Go back to the pictures.
No, I tell you what, my father, organic gardening. I always took organic gardening. So we're the only family in the neighborhood that dug. You know, you've heard if you want a tree to survive, dig a $10 hole for a $1 tree. Well, we did that for tomato plants. We did that for every kind of plant. We dig a hole. And when I had to go shovel manure barns by the pickup load to haul back for our compost pile with our straw pile with the so-and-so cottonseed hole pile with, you know, hay pile, and we built a compost and we built a hole about this big around and about this deep to plant a tomato plant. But we'd have tomatoes that supply the entire neighborhood after the third frost. I mean, you can kill these things, chainsaw them.
It seemed like there was a movie made about tomato plants taking over.
Boy.
Set the outer space to see if it would change.
I'll never will forget those days. Hauling that manure, gee, Christmas. Step 2, this sort of just answer the questions that are real important. These are the operational questions. And I'll just read a few, like under A, under heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Our thermostats are vulnerable to individual occupants adjustment, yes or no? In other words, are they locked off or are they not? Thermostat settings are periodically adjusted for seasonal conditions. What I mean by that is typically they're adjusted in the summer and no one even thinks about them until winter. Or do you go in there and you have a phased program and now spring they're set at one temperature, summer they're set at one temperature, fall they're set at another temperature, and winter they're set. That's a seasonal change. You're constantly in there moving them, you know, every 3 months for conditions.
What about every 2 or 3 hours?
We have a lot of seasons in our town.
Well, that's a little, I wouldn't consider it a seasonal adjustment, but
Yeah.
and, thermostats, and I think y'all almost answered this one, thermostats are best described as one of the following: standard mercury switch or electronic programmable or electronic sensors. And a sensor, we just mean some type of device like this that you can't do anything with. It just probes and senses temperature and goes back to a central source, a computer or whatever. Most of you will not have those. Durant probably may, and Bartlesville may, but that'd be the only 2 probably cities that I'd be shocked if any of the others do, based on size. After hours activities are scheduled in such a manner to conserve energy, yes, no. I'm pretty sure that's all going to be no. Your building temperatures are adjusted for unoccupied periods, probably no. Heating, cooling equipment in your lobbies, corridors, vestibules, other public areas, that's probably going to be yes. Item A9 is real important. If you can Xerox any records of maintenance for motor-driven equipment are available if you have any information on them, you know. Any product literature whatsoever. Item A11 is conditioned air exhausted or water discharged to the exterior. And what we're referring to there, you're going to say yes. If you got a bathroom inside with the exhaust fan, it's discharged. And what we get into there is, you know, a lot of times you'll have what we call a unisex or a one-holer, and it's a switch, and then later on it's the older, so you add another switch and you put an exhaust fan in there. Well, what happens, a lot of people go off with the exhaust fan running, open the door and head out. They wash their hands in a hurry and they head out and the light's off. But, you know, you don't consciously a lot of times hit the fan sitting there taking conditioned air out the door and through your exhaust. And like to rewire, it doesn't take much. You can rewire those and run it off the switch. So when the light's off, the exhaust's off. Even in bathrooms like in here, that one's running all the time right now. It's probably not wired to the light switch, and you're probably exhausted, and then those bathrooms have no doors on them. So we're looking for any type of exhaust that you have in kitchen equipment, bathroom, any type of exhaust that exhaust conditioned air or water. Your filters, and when we say regular inspected, you know, that doesn't mean once a year or spring and fall, you know, like every 3 months. You know, are they regular inspected and changed out? Is a regular filter maintenance program? And I know we'll have fun with you later, riding you about it. We can make sarcastic comments like we have on Enid and them, but be accurate with yourself. Everyone says, yeah, we've got a maintenance program. Yeah, we heard that on Enid, we heard that on Ada, we heard that on Okmulgee, and it was obviously they didn't. And they have a maintenance program, but it's economics and firefights, you know. we're not trying to pick on anybody, even though we say we are. You know, we've had fun with them, but that's the cold hard facts of life. It's a tough market, and money's extremely tight in every city. But if you do have a real program and you change them every 3 months or once a month, that's legitimate. If you don't, say you don't. The further description on mechanical systems, you can read them down through there. Is your heating gas fired? A15 is good condition equipment. Is it new? 3 to 5 years old, 5 to 10 years old, poor condition, needs replacement. Your return air, free return plan. What I mean by free return in a commercial building is a no-no, but it's done and it's still existing. If your building's very old, it'll be there. And the only reason I'll touch on this is it impacts the way the thing's designed, but it also impacts, just so you'll know, that the #1 cause of death in fires, and we've got a fireman here to probably tell you as well as I can, is smoke inhalation. Free return, smoke inhalates and kills your people trying to egress your building. For example, what I mean by free return is this is a footprint of a building, and here's your, we'll do one of those nice recessed focal points. You've got your little vestibule here, so you're doing that right. Got a door out to the north and a door out to the south, and your corridor comes in just for simple purposes throughout the building. Then you got your office and everything. And you got a mechanical room sitting right here. And you got a grill in the wall. And you supply out overhead, you know, to different parts. And this also mixed to this zone and mixes over here. What'll happen is you have a fire over here, or a fire over here, or a fire over here, or a fire in a corridor or anywhere. Smoke will travel, hit this unit, and wherever that provides air to, the smoke can light the rest of the building. It's kosher by all current codes. You can't do that. That's a free return. There's no ducts that take it back. It's not in the plenum. It's just like residential, like your house. That's why it smokes through the whole place.
That design is a violation of the new VOCA code, and any building with that design that's remodeled has to be changed according to the code.
Right. And that's why I'm bringing it up, just so you know. It just,
No, it's remodel. The grandfather clause only applies in certain limited remodels, but.
If it's sprinkler or something wrong.
or any exception now. The only reason we're bringing this up is not to pick on, but we're going to find them. Guarantee you've got them. They're there. But it gives you reason to think about. Well, you know, on energy conservation, this may be one we ought to look at faster than the other building down here that needs a new central. It needs a new. If you got 2 buildings that need new furnaces, residential grade, well, this obviously ought to take precedence how to deal with this one over another one that doesn't have this problem. You know, doesn't have this issue of life, safety, and fire issue. Especially if it's out in the public eye in an administration building, and you got public coming in paying their bills around the corner over here. I mean, definitely let's take care of this one for no other reason than life, safety, and fire issues. So I just want to make that a point to you. Going down through. Colonizer cycle, we've touched on that. Colonizer cycle is like it's ducted, outside air is brought in, and you use it for cooling. I'm not talking about makeup air, it's actually air on a system that's brought in for free cooling. I don't think any of you will have it except maybe Barnesville or Durant. If you got residential grade equipment, don't count. I mean, you're not going to have that. Outdoor air on a regular basis, ventilate the building. Do you actually open the building up, or is the makeup air utilized to ventilate the building? Is it drawn through for free air? Ed, you might have another example to clarify what we mean by A19.
Well, that's referring to a ducted outside air connection so that the mechanical system pulls fresh air into the building through the ductwork and into the rooms. If it's a rooftop unit
Right.
built in the last 15 years, it very likely has that.
That's just what I was going to point out, like City Hall at Okmulgee, roof, walls, unit sets up here, and ducts down, or it can duct down out the side, return up through here. Just depends on the way it's designed. Typically they'll do this and return up through here. Then you'll also have a grill either on the side here, or they'll have a box unit that's bolted on the side. And you'll see these damper-like things. You know, and sometimes you'll get up on top of here and they'll make noise and clack shut if they're not adjusted operating right, or they've got them blanked off. A lot of times that's your makeup air. They're drawing in from there to make up, to provide into your air that's coming in return, and a percentage comes in and goes onto the system.
Fresh air is required by code on any commercial building. The item number 20 there, the next one says about, does that close when the building is unoccupied? Well, a lot of the systems are fixed, where those louvers are fixed in an open position. So
Yep.
one of the energy savings means is to reattach the motor that closes them automatically.
We got into that at City Hall here in Okmulgee, has a control system. They were sold, you can describe the system better than I can, Ed. The
It's
control,
multi-zone, typical multi-zone.
and it can heat and cool simultaneously. Depends on whatever the building requires. And it run their utility bills very high because, you know, if you got cold natured people turn the T-stat, you can heat this side of the building at 90 and you can cool this side at 50. You know, and it depends on how you want to operate it. So their utility bills are very high, and it's a very comfort condition type. So what they did is they went to the other extreme. They just disactivated everything. And to the extreme that when you walk into a commercial building like City Hall and you got residential ceiling fans hanging in the offices circulating air, I mean, draw your own conclusion. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're not getting proper ventilation stuff. So we found that this wasn't as deactivated, wasn't operating properly, so that's what this question deals with. Trying to skim through and see, there's a few of them that are oddities like that we want to point out. Multiple bars, surface. If Ed or you and Charlie, as you skim through, see something we might want to clarify, because some of these I know there'll be questions on.
Some of y'all with bigger buildings will have domestic hot water heaters that have circulating pumps. And that does waste a lot of heat energy throughout the building, so we can, on weekends or nights, those can be turned off if they're wired with a timer. That's item 828.
And your setting's too high on A30. It's amazing when you do hot water, a lot of people still set it at 180 or plus. And you can shave that down quite a bit, or not 180, 140? Yeah, 180, it's a boiling point. Heating pilots on during the cooling season. Well, we're going to find those. We'll find out whether you tell us the truth here or not. A lot of you'll say no, and you'll be surprised because it tells on your utility bills. Like this is important on item 32, and you'll have to select the ceiling tile to look. But it's amazing how many. I get this chance for an architect to pick on contractors, but we find it consistently in all the. You've got good contractors, bad contractors, just like architects. I picked on the architect on City Hall of Enid. But we found in many applications where the hot water, and you don't know, it's unfair picking on them, you don't know they may expect it just to this location, but you got the hot water tank, supply line coming in, and your hot line going out, and here's your wall. It's insulated real nice. That's it. Turns up, goes up the wall, goes throughout the entire building, totally uninsulated. So you don't know how it was spec'd. You don't know, did the contractor cut a corner? Did it even specify he did that just to make it look good? You never know. But it's important whether they're insulated or not, your lines. On operation of your boiler, item 33 is excessive soot or smoke under operation. You can just it's like a wood stove with too much soot in the chimney. Does a burner short cycle? Goes multiple condensing starts sometime. Bill Doug. On to A41, 42. You know, A42 tells us some characteristics. Space temperature cannot be maintained or volume of air discharged through diffusion inadequate. In other words, the west side of the building kind of consistently gets too hot. You know, it's not maintained space temperature. You know, you go to the central part of the building and it's comfortable. You go to the west side of the building and it just won't maintain, or south, north, east, west, whatever the case might be. Item 47 is going to be consistently Yes, it has no time restrictions. I imagine on all your domestic hot water cycles. I doubt if any of you have any timers or anything on them. You're probably just running them. And that's what leads into 48. Has there been any devices on the hot water to conserve or utilize throughout the system? The building envelope, it's going to tell us a lot. Building, you know, what's the major components the walls consist of. Which one is best to describe it?
All right, let me back up, item number 48.
Okay.
That's referring to reduced flow faucets or reduced flow.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Devices in the faucets. And again, that's a big area that you can save a tremendous amount of energy if you have a busy toilet in a public building where if you're using hot water at all, you can get, change the faucets to a design that restricts water flow. We took measurements of water flow.
As a matter of fact, that's right. We need to tell them that your old faucets, what we're finding up
They're
there,
5 to 7 gallons a minute.
5 to 7 gallons a minute, and current code requirements
1.5.
are 1.5. And basically, that's was mark, set, go. We had a 1 or 2.
Two-cup measure.
Turn it on, you look at, turn it off. And then you can calculate, do that several times and get an average 3 or 4 times. You see how fast it fills it up. But basically your old faucets, and what that boils down to is it wastes a lot of water, especially with heated water. You know, you're pushing a lot more water and volume through there to cause that tank to come on and cycle a lot more. So we look at the water, and that's something we didn't touch on a lot, but we should have, we will later, is on your water systems, meter the buildings. That's one of the things we'll promote throughout this thing is meter your buildings of water usage, meter your parks and water usage.
The reason that we didn't touch on it much is because it's one of the no-cost, low-cost things. It's so inexpensive. We would expect y'all, if you find an old faucet that runs 7 gallons a minute, you ought to throw it away and put on one of the new ones because it just didn't cost you anything.
It's very cheap, and you'll have them. They're all throughout all your older facilities, and it's costing you a lot of money. Surprisingly, you know, just like, well, your hot water tanks and a drippy faucet or same with your toilet bowl that leaks in the toilet. It's just like the cracker on the door. It has the same impact. It's amazing how much energy it actually consumes. I mean, we calculate some numbers, I don't remember what they were, but it really costs a lot of energy, just like your faucet's using too much water. So, also on the water hole, I was touching on Enid. All of you had that little packet with the little 3-ring binder talking about the water usage in the chart, how much they had 50 million gallons a month unaccounted for. Well, when we get down there and look at your city, you'll have the same thing. And the thing, without metering your buildings, you don't know what's acceptable losses. You have no idea of knowing how much you're pouring out on the ground. You have no idea how much, you know, it's like we tell everyone loves the golf course, and everyone loves the beauty, and everyone likes something. Not everyone likes to play. I don't like to play golf. It's a waste of time, but everyone does. It's what makes the world go round. And it's nice to have, but if you don't know what it costs you, is it that nice to have? If you know it costs you $25,000 a year, if it costs you $100,000 a year, you know, it gives you a tool to make an evaluation and a judgment call. But if you don't have any basis for an evaluation or a judgment call, you're just kissing in the wind. And if you meter your buildings, then you know what you're doing with your water, you know what you produce, you know what you sell, then you know the delta T between the two. And is that an acceptable loss? And where's it going? Right now, 50 million gallons a year, 250 million gallons a year in Enid, unaccounted for. Same with Ada, same with Okmulgee. I mean, you have no idea.
Their fire departments estimate the use on fires and stuff, how long they pump.
Not typically.
Let people read their own meters that don't work very good. Turn around backwards.
That's right. Well, Okmulgee had a program, I believe they said, that they went around, and one of the things that it is good and can conserve, but Okmulgee really didn't want to because they sell water. They're not in the mode of saving water, they're in the mode of selling water. They're one of the largest rural water districts that sell water all over this area. But as we told them, it's the next major resource disaster that we're going to be facing in a few years because of groundwater contamination, etc. And look at, well, City of Bixby tripled their water rates just 2-3 years ago. That's what got me on the council. You know, because I got tired and I came in there and I'm used to paying, you know, I like to water my lawn. I like the nice looking lawn shrubs. I got some azaleas and things like that, purplina bandanas. And I like it to look really pretty. And I'm paying, you know, my water bills, I don't mind June, July, anywhere from $35, $45. Okay. Next month, August, I'm gone. I'm gone 2 weeks on vacation. The other 2 weeks, the grass starting to fade off, you know, I let it go. My bill was $75, only watered once each week. And that's the month and I find out, well, yeah, we had to raise water rates. And I find out they tripled the water rates. Well, the water and the EPA and what the testing requirements you're going to have to go through, it's upcoming with contaminants and stuff, so it'll cause you to have to raise, the rates are going to go up. So it's the next major resource that's essential to life. And as a municipality, I think you need to be accountable. It's negligence to me to not meter and know what you're doing with the resource. It's just gross negligence. Building envelope, so move along. Those questions there are pretty straightforward. I don't see anything in the building have vestibules, no vestibules. The glazing or the glass, are they thermal panes? I talked about thermal panes being insulated glass anywhere from 1/4 inch to 1 inch. If it's not, you know, you can say that single pane right out to the side if you want to, it's your choice. Single pane with storm. In other words, if you've added storm windows over the existing windows. The building windows are shaded by the building design. What I mean by that are the buildings have overhangs. You know, they shade the glass, keep the sun off of it. Exterior wall insulation. Some of you will know, some of you won't know. And under other, you can say, I don't know. Or you can list what it actually is. Same with the roof. The exterior doors, everyone here probably knows hollow metal, solid core wood, or aluminum storefront. And storefront is glass doors with aluminum frames. Like right here, that's called a storefront. Another great architectural term to impress people. The weather strippings include thresholds. They have a positive seal in the following condition. And what I mean positive seal is obvious. Do they close out, or can you put your hand around it and feel, you know, like that's definitely not a positive seal, you know. And doors that are glass with the little hair strips, and if you can see daylight through them, they're not a positive seal, and those little hair strips are consistently, you see through them, so they're not a positive seal. And another thing on weather stripping, aluminum thresholds like we have out here, when you walk out the door, the doors are closed, and from right here I can see daylight and concrete on the other side of the bottom of the door, definitely not a positive seal. And those are thresholds, but you know, it's not a positive seal. So caulking on the windows, and you have to go look, you know, on the condition of them, and if they're cracked or gapping or brittle, caulking should be pliable. You should be able to put your fingernail into it and push into it, not shove it through, but at least should be soft, not hard as rock. If it's hard and brittle, or if it's cracked, it's worthless, it's no good, it's time to replace it. And that's what the majority of them are going to be unless you've gone around this last season. The roof falling condition, new, 2 years, 5 years, you know, past over several years tells us a lot. The building entrance is what it faces, percentage of glass of the building is. Is there insulation between conditioned and non-conditioned space? What we're talking about there is if you add on the side of a building, for example, the fire station in Enid, they had an existing building that was here, parapet sticking up, and they added on and put your truck bays here. Well, this was an exterior wall turned into an interior wall, and it was no insulation. It was just solid, like solid concrete. You know, between truck bays or maintenance facilities, you'll have that. And, you know, you may have an office here, and this portion, and then the truck bays here, and this portion, this is air conditioned, this is just heated. Well, this will have an impact on the characteristics of the building. And the mechanical, that's a good question. It'll be hard for you to tell a lot of times. The mechanical electrical rooms, are they insulated? In your mechanical rooms, if you have a room inside a building, just like your house in a residence, 99% of your houses that have a furnace inside, you know, closet, they aren't insulated. Well, that room by code has to have combustion, has a stack going through the roof, through the attic, through the roof, and there'll be a gap around your sheetrock. It'll just draw air underneath your door right into that closet, right out your house, just like a chimney effect. And there's also combustion air. It's a duct that's 6 inches, comes down almost to the floor, and it goes clear through the roof. And it's open to, well, you'll have the same thing in commercial buildings. So that's just an open hole. And then you got your walls are uninsulated 9 times out of 10 around it. So that, that's energy waster. And usually you have an interior grade door on that room, not an exterior grade with weather stripping, threshold, and seal. So it's like the old fireplace, a leaky fireplace. It just leave the fluid open. That's what you've got. Mechanical room walls would pass them. Stairways, same with the stairway. A stairway, they don't condition them 9 times out of 10, which is fine. But like in Enid City Hall, well, I mean, I could do a doctorate on Enid City Hall. You've got a stairway. It's on the back side of the elevator. Really nice, really pretty. And this is glass from here to here, large expanse of glass. In this location, the stairway starts up, turns a corner, starts up, and goes up the first, second floor. Well, this is solid masonry construction, zero insulation, south side, with glazing on the east and west, and on the south, there's glass here as well. And it's unconditioned, and it's an open well between the second and the first floor. Well, I've got this solid rock block out here with glass on it, heating up like a furnace with no insulation, and it just drifting up and down through the building. Just an open shaft well to let heat, as it heats up, the heat travels up and adds the load to the first or the second floor. As it cools down at nighttime, it drifts down and runs down to the first floor. The building has skylights. There's the open wells. I've talked about the open wells. Slope glazing. Do you have any sloped glass on an angle on the side of the roof or something like that? That was real popular in the 70s. Everybody thought that was real sex appeal on a building to stick that sloped glass out there. Mazio's really into that now. If you go eat Mazio's, they've got that nice little sun space. Try sitting in there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on August and eat. You either won't be able to hear yourself because the air conditioner over here at the diffusers are pushing so much air, or you'll be miserable and get up and move. Blinds or curtains on the building. Item C, operation computer equipment. Is checked periodically. By that, and Ed and Charlie might clarify some thoughts on that so we can think what we're thinking of. What comes to my mind is, for example, all the city halls, I can't remember on Ada, but on Okmulgee and Enid, they left it on, period. Even though they didn't really need it on the weekends, they just said, well, typically, if I remember correctly, we just leave it on the mainframe. And so, is it left on all the time? Is it turned off periodically? Or is that kind of what we're looking for? And same with vending machines, the same thing on that. I'm sure they're going to, when they're on, they're plugged in and they're there. If you have written procedures on kitchen facilities or equipment, what we're looking at there is if you have any kitchen facilities or if you have any laundries, like in the jail, a laundry, is there any on your multi-purpose senior citizen centers, multi-purpose centers, activity centers, is there any scheduled regular times that they use the equipment, or does people just come in and they can wash whenever they want, or they can come in and cook whenever they want? Are the hot water tanks insulated and the hot water piping insulated? It's pretty self-explanatory. Tank blankets are cheap and they really do work. Lighting systems, again, that's kind of an overlap of the other information, but it's a double check. Exterior lighting on the building, that's important. When you count your light fixtures, back on the other form, you're giving us the types, call them out as exterior or something like that, or security lights, however you want to identify them, but let us know they're on the outside. Of course, if you say mercury vapor, we're going to take for granted they're on the outside. I can't imagine them hanging one inside, but stranger things have happened. And then the last thing is any photographs, and then any building plans. If you don't have any building plans, this right here does wonders. I mean, y'all know what grid paper, the 8.5 by 11 is grid paper. Well, you can make that grid of scale, and every one of those squares, or every inch is so many feet, and it just kind of scale out. And all it has to do is like this. If that's the best of information you have, and lets us know, you know, it does something like, you know, it gives us configuration like this, and you can just say entrance, you know, and if there's a thing here, you know, entrance, you know, and you can draw little stairs, this little. We're gonna take for granted that's a stairway, you know, and in the hallway, you just. Okay, that tells us kind of the axis of the building, you know, just real simple, abstract. With square footage is better than nothing, so.
Now, I have plans for the building I work in, but will we get them back if we send, because photocopying that thing would mean having somebody spend 8 hours.
Right, we don't really need to do that. How do you want those?
And I have a full set, and I don't know which one is
I can
which.
assure you that we could return it to you, and we would probably copy the sheets that we needed and return it to you.
Okay, because we do,
And that would make it easy on you to sit down and
Right.
redraw it.
yeah.
Right, because what we can do is, once we have a photograph, we roll out the plans, we can tell that, oh yeah, that's City Hall, or no, that's the Public Works, or that's the library.
Yeah.
And then we send them to a place and have just the sheets copied, we need information, and we can return them.
I hang on to them pretty tightly.
Yeah.
Took me
Well,
a
the
week
one-
to get them back last time I loaned them.
That's right. The one thing that we say that you do to us, and this is just good prudence on everyone's part, make a list up, list the sheet numbers in it, and have us sign it,
Okay.
you know, and the date we took it. And that way it kind of ties us down. We can't run and hide and say, oh, I never got it. And that's what you ought to do with anyone. Well, that's pretty well the audit forms in a nutshell. We have an example here I brought of a TOCA. And TOCA, I can't say enough about. I'm impressed. The city manager there, they're aggressive. They jumped on this thing, and I had this thing in turnaround. She said, I can mail it to you within, it was like 2 weeks. She said, I can mail this all to you. I mean, this is from the little packet that you received. She says, I'm going to be in the program. I'm going to be gone this week, but I tell you what, next week I'll get you all the information. I said, yeah, right. And so she said, well, I can mail it to you this week, but I'm coming up to the OML conference. I can just give it to you there. I said, bring it along. I figured, hey, I'll give her an extra week or so. She's going to need it, right? Well, we got the packet information here, and the application's all typed out. Ordinance is attached to it. We got the ordinance number, notarized. Oh, gee, Christmas. Also, any other ordinances dealing with their electricity usage in the Public Works Department. A list of Arkansas Gas, and it provides City Hall, Fire Department. Southwesternville provides the following buildings. Public Service Electric provides the following buildings. She doesn't have the audit form, so don't feel like she's done everything. You know. And then attached to it, she just took the utility bills and put them on there, and then attached a photograph to them, so we can know that this building is what she's talking about, and there's a utility bill on it. So that's right there. So you know, that's kind of what we're looking for. But you all are taking one step further, which they will need to do with the TOCA, is the audit forms, because there's too much information that's not contained in here. But for her first, you know, I was really impressed with, and this on every facility throughout the city. The gas and electric staple pulled together, and I forgot what's in here.
Are we gonna get some more audit
I
forms
did.
from y'all, or we'll make our own?
Probably Xerox and throw over the plan, if that's all right. It'd be the easiest. I mean, we
Yeah.
provided the big stack, but
I just didn't want to Xerox a bunch of them, and hear a bunch of them coming to me.
no. We initially planned for one just to Xerox them, because we had no idea how many to even run. I don't know how many buildings you have,
I got 25 of them.
if you'd run. We need to check on those,
Yeah, Anita had another meeting to go to, and so she's not going to be here. But she did want to, you know, express her thanks for all of you coming and for participating. We do have someone that asked for a list of the participants. And then also, we made you a copy. Somebody was asking about the different types of fixtures and this sort of thing. So we will give you a copy of these, and perhaps, you know, this will help you in identifying the different types of light fixtures that you have in your facilities.
And one thing we're a firm believer in is their information, education is, I use the word power because I'm not on a power trip, but there is power and there is benefits. So share among cities. Plus it makes life nice. You get to meet other people, and that's what life's about because we're all going to die one of these days. We're not going to take anything with us. So people is more worth than any business is going to be. So from this program, that's what I like about it. Get to meet people, hopefully do business with people, get to know more about each other. And, you know, that's to me what makes life go around is people. And so you can share information, you can benefit from each city, get to know one another, and it just makes it a lot of fun. In the program, we get to see each other next time and talk, have something to talk about, you know. And also, after the program's over with, keep sharing information because, you know, the way you operate your facilities, you'll know the kind of things that each other are going to do on the program and try and install in your city. Keep track of each other and say, hey, how's that working for you? Well, hey, I don't know, we got a problem on it. Something may not be working for you after we're long gone. Because I tell you, when the money runs out, I'm gone. You know, and so you may be able to uncover things there, share with you. But in all seriousness, you can call me afterwards, and I'll help in anything way I can. But it's good to be able to share in other communities.
Let's talk just a bit about, once you answer the question, but just a little bit before we go about what we want to do with alternative fuels, well, alternative energy.
Okay. Did you have a question? Yeah, you were gone.
Do you have a time frame?
Everybody get a copy of this, where we're headed?
Well, at this moment, no. The last time schedule that we've done was in that little booklet, and it's shot. What I want to do is, I was sharing with everyone, with a few of you, and I'll share so you know, we're going to mail you one. What we've got to do, Charlie, Ed, and Anita and I have got to sit down and just make a decision, which I think we've already well made it, but officially make it, notify the Department of Commerce, those cities who have not participated, their history. Because as I was saying, you know, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but it's not fair to the cities who are participating. It's making an effort going to seminars to take time away from them and drag people along that's not going to participate and really be aggressive. And so we've got to notify them, and we've got to make a decision. And once I know how many cities, then we're going to look at this week logistic planning schedule of how long it's going to take, and we'll send out a preliminary schedule to all the cities. And at that time, I'd like for you to say, you know, when you see those timelines, if you see anything that conflicts, hey, this month we're going to be gone the entire month. Well, you can forget Christmas, we'll be past that. But you know, anything that, like you've got major seminars, a big OML, or your entire administrative department's going to be gone to retreat, you know, that affects the timelines, let us know, you know, because there's a little bit of, because we're going to have to be really working with a lot of communities, and there's going to be conflicts. And so anything that you know about that can help us, because we don't want to plan them when you can't be there, and we can't be there. You know, we'll work around whatever we can, but we'll send out a preliminary schedule unless there's a lot of major feedback that just says, hey, you're crazy, you know, then we'll pretty well run with it.
One question about resources, funding resources. Now, we can't expect anything from the Exxon, is that correct?
Well, I don't know, I can't say that. There's Exxon oil overcharge dollars, and it is getting smaller every year. I don't know. I honestly don't know if there's any.
So
There is additional money there right now.
Okay, is there any other funding sources that we might look at?
Right. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that under contract we're to do. And once we do the designs and the different type projects, the next time we'll have the seminar, we'll have the vendors in to show you all kinds of products that go along with the directions. We'll also have people in like bond council people and also other finance people. There's one, for example, that they go around